Hello, everyone, and welcome to the sideboard here at the Minneapolis Open Series. I'm Glenn Jones, and I'm joined by Andrew Tenjum. Thanks for coming over. Congratulations on your second place finish in the Invitational.
Thank you, Glenn.
Strong showing. You played Domri Naya, as we saw in the standard portion, took you all the way into the finals in the standard top 8. But, only a week later, you've already moved off of your Domri Naya deck. You've left the Smiters behind.
Yeah.
The Elephant served him so well. The deck you've sleeved up for today, it's green-red aggro. A little bit of a mix between what Brian Kibler took to the Players' Championship just this weekend, and also what Ross Merriam originally played back in the Atlanta Invitational several months ago.
Yeah.
The main differences between those two decks being, Burning Tree Emissary and Gyre Sage. You've actually brought back in the Burning Tree Emissaries and a few Gyre Sages. How have those changes been playing out?
In the Invitational, I played Naya, and I felt good about all the matchups, especially against the blue decks, because Damirad, just plussing every turn.
He's big.
Yeah, that's a big game against the blue decks. But I felt a little behind against the Jund decks, which are becoming really popular. I just felt like I wasn't being aggressive enough. And as we saw in my final match, whenever I stuck Burning Earth, it really wasn't that effective. So I switched to this more aggressive green-red shell because the curve is lower and it plays much more aggressive creatures like Burning Tree Emissary and Flint of Boar, which pressures their life total, and I think that's where I want to be against Jund rather than trying to go along with them because their cards are a lot higher quality in the long game.
Yeah, I really like the idea of being a Burning Earth deck that can actually afford to cast Thundermaw Hellkites, as you could get into really awkward situations with 3-color mana bases, obviously, where you can't just be playing your 5-drops all willy-nilly, but you don't have that problem in green-red. If you have to take 2, maybe even 3 damage to play a Thundermaw Hellkite, that's small potatoes, because they're taking 5 and they can't even play anything at that point. So it's very interesting to me how this deck has actually, kind of come from that circle, because, originally Cedric took it and turned it into like a Jund deck, and then Kibler took the Jund deck and turned it into a different deck, and then Kibler took the Jund deck, turned it back to a green-red deck, and now it's almost like over the course of 8 months, we're just about right back where we started.
Yeah, pretty much.
The difference is, we've added a few cards like Scavenging Ooze and obviously Elvish Mystic. How much play have you gotten with these cards in Standard, and do you anticipate them just continuing to change the format? Obviously, Scavenging Ooze has been huge in Jund, but how do you like it in these more aggressive decks?
Well, I think Scavenging Ooze is very good in these aggressive decks because one of the problems throughout Magic history of aggro decks is if you flood out, your spells aren't powerful enough to help you recover from that. But with Scavenging Ooze, if you draw it late game, you'll have a bunch of mana to use, and it will just get really big really fast, and it's actually going to be a very high-quality card that can overpower what your opponent has, even in the late game.
I agree with you, especially in the context of the game. Just the way it's going to play out, you're always going to wind up peeling something like a Flint of Boar and Elvish Mystic, and that's what things like Kessig Wolfram have always been good for, to make those cards into threats. The only issue I see with Scavenging Ooze is, when you're facing other Scavenging Ooze decks, they can already have emptied the graveyard, even if you manage to handle the threat. So is that like an active concern for you when you're playing Scavenging Ooze mirrors, as it were?
Yeah, that is somewhat of an issue, but I think the fact that because my deck is so aggressive, a lot of times they're going to have to play Scavenging Ooze early to trade with the Flint of War, or just even chump block sometimes, or especially trade with Hellrider.
That makes sense.
Once it gets to the late game, then it becomes an issue. But even then, I have Mizium Orders to destroy it. I can Gore-Clan Rampager over it.
Yeah,
there's lots of ways to deal with it. Yeah.
Also, of course, Thundermaw Hellkite can just race it.
Yeah, you can just race it. Yeah.
Thundermaw Hellkite's got to be one of the best cards in the deck. Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's pretty much the main reason why I like this type of deck right now. Regardless of the colors, I think Thundermaw Hellkite is one of the most powerful cards in Standard, and I really want to be playing a Thundermaw Hellkite deck.
I know a number of players agree with you, from other green-red players to even Matt Costa with his blue-white-red deck has been sideboarding him for months now. So clearly Thundermaw Hellkite is where you want to be as far as going over the top of Thragtusk right now.
Yeah.
So who did you work with to get to this list? Obviously, we've talked a little bit about the list that we pulled from. Did you work with anyone in particular building the list for this event?
I started off watching Worlds coverage, the Players' Championship this week, and I really liked what Brian Kibler did with his green-red deck that he played in the Players' Championship. So I was playtesting that all week, and then I met up with Caleb Durward, and he had also created a green-red list, and he actually incorporated Burning Tree Emissary and Gyre Sage into his list, and I like that a lot because Burning Tree Emissary, it allows for aggressive starts, but even better, I like how it fixes your mana sometimes, because Brian Kibler's String Root Geist, the mana, despite being a 2-color deck, the mana is kind of awkward sometimes, and Burning Tree Emissary is not only easily castable, but it also sometimes fixes your mana. Like if you have 1 red source, you can still cast your Hellrider just by going Burning Tree Hellrider.
That's true. I know that Strangler Geist Hellrider was always been an awkward curve for these decks to maintain, and even some of these players are playing Borderland Rangers, and it's not really where we want to be, ideally. So sure, that makes a lot of sense. All right, Andrew, thank you for joining me, talking a little bit about Green Red Aggro. Guys, stay tuned to SCG Live for more Magic.